Hi, I'm Reverend Jake Zabel, and welcome to Children's Bible Stories. Okay, children, our story for today is Jesus calling his disciples. But this account is actually Jesus recalling some of his disciples. Because according to the account of John's Gospel, when Jesus came back from the 40 days in the wilderness, he was originally followed by the apostles Andrew and John, who had been disciples of John the Baptist. They later went and got their brothers Peter and James to follow Jesus as well. And then Jesus went off and called Philip and Nathanael and a couple other disciples before heading off to the wedding of Cana and then doing some preaching around the land of Judea and Galilee. And this is actually Jesus coming and now calling the disciples while they're in Galilee. So Jesus couldn't have called these disciples originally at Galilee because they had spotted Jesus near the Jordan River where John the Baptist had been preaching. And so Jesus had originally called James and John, Peter and Andrew back when they were near the Jordan River, when they were following John the Baptist. So now this account where Jesus is now in Galilee and he come past the Sea of Galilee and calls them is a different account to that mentioned in John's Gospel. So this isn't actually Jesus calling his first disciples. This account, which appears in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark and Luke, is actually Jesus recalling his disciples. The disciples had been preaching with Jesus for about a year in the lands of Judea and Galilee, and now they'd gone back to Galilee, and the disciples had gone back to fishing, and so Jesus had to come and call them again to make them be his disciples. So let us begin with the actual story. Jesus was passing by the Sea of Galilee, and he saw some fishermen, Peter and his brother Andrew, and they were out in their boat casting their net into the sea to catch some fish. And Jesus called to them and he said, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." And so they would have docked their boat, and they got out and they followed Jesus. And Jesus went along the beach a little further, and he saw Zebedee along with his two sons, James and John, and they were busy cleaning and mending their nets. Now Zebedee was a rich man who owned a lot of fishing boats, and he had his two sons, James and John, working with him as fishermen, but also, according to scripture, Peter and Andrew were also partners of James and John, so they had also were working for Zebedee as well. We know that Zebedee has a boat, and in other parts of scripture we know that Peter had his own boat, so Peter worked for Zebedee but had his own boat to do fishing in. And so Jesus and Andrew and Peter came along, and they saw James and John helping their father Zebedee fixing and cleaning nets. And Jesus called out to them as well to come and follow him, and that he would make them fishers of men. And so Peter and Andrew, James and John followed Jesus to go become fishers of men. That meant they were going to be disciples of Jesus and follow him around, but they were also going to be preachers that were going to convert people to Christianity. And so, children, that's our Bible story for today. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye, and God bless.